guys. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to touch on some geopolitical and macroeconomic factors that affect small business in 2024 and beyond. So, basically, this is a presentation outlining the threats to your business. So, the top geopolitical risks, this falls under the category of macroeconomics because it's large scale. All right, so first, we're going to discuss here today how can geopolitical risk affect you? So, trade and investment, geopolitical problems that we're seeing here in 24 at the moment. We're seeing this disruption of trade flows in the form of tariffs and taxes. And this results in raised prices for consumers. So, countries, for example, China has still got tariffs with the US. There's still trade wars going on there, raising the prices there of the import market, and the exports. So with different uh, countries, if more countries start to impose tariffs and taxes, what we'll see is we'll see higher prices for the products that are being imported into Australia. So for anyone trading with a country that puts a tariff or a tax on Australia. I know China, for example, there was a tax in the wine industry for a number of years that recently got lifted. So it's just sort of an example there on where consumers can pay higher prices as a result of taxes and tariffs being imposed. Next one, we're going to go to currency exchange rates. So um, currency exchange rates at the moment, the Australian dollar isn't doing too well on the global market. It can definitely affect you if your supplier is in an economy or a country that has a stronger currency than Australia, because it will cost you more to import that particular product, um, as opposed to if it has a weaker based currency. So if you're trading with Japan, for example, the Australian dollar is quite strong in Japan. So if you had a product that was getting manufactured in Japan, it might cost more money to manufacture the product, but your dollar value would go further than what it would in a country, say, like the UK, for example, or say the euro is probably a better example again, because the UK hasn't been super strong, or the British pound hasn't been super strong recently throughout the last 12 months or so. So that's kind of just an example there, that political instability and unrest can lead to a depreciation of a currency. So that's something to sort of be mindful of, watching the global currency movements, especially just between the country that you're trading with, to see what's happening, whether it's going up, going down, because they're all things that can affect your business's profits, depending on scale that you're trading at. It can affect your profit more so than otherwise. Um, so next we've got inflation. So with inflation, geopolitical risk can contribute to inflation. Disruptions within supply chains can result in higher prices of goods and services within a market. So once again, sort of what I said before with the US and China example, can result in inflation. Um, if you have war in a country, for example, such as what we're seeing in the Ukraine at the moment with Russia and the Ukraine, this has caused an energy shortage to the EU, which has resulted in really high prices, energy prices, and energy insecurity in some European-based countries, which has sort of further pushed some countries to go more renewable, which has been a positive. But you see inflated prices of different types of goods, services, or commodities that can affect the operating expenses of running your particular business. Um, so it's always something just to keep an eye out for. Um, Looking at, where inflation is, what's the inflation rate of the country of Australia and the country that you are importing your materials from. If you're importing from one country, for example, into Australia, you're value adding into a product and then you're exporting it out to another market, then that's you want to look at all different uh, factors there. You want to know the inflation and the currency of the market you're importing from, and you want to know the inflation and the currency the market that you're exporting to. And you also want to keep on top of the trade restrictions and tariffs that potentially be imposed, any geopolitical conflict. So that's just touching on sort of inflation there at a basic kind of business trading level. Government spending next. So governments may need to increase spending on defence and humanitarian aid in time of conflict. So what we saw in the US is US have started putting a lot of their government spending into military and defence due to potential conflict with China or tensions with China increasing. You see too with sort of countries that have been under attack, they'll typically, they might rely on other nations to provide humanitarian aid in a time of conflict, or they might invest in a level of humanitarian aid to look after their own country or market. Coming on to the next one, S&P Global Key Geopolitical Risks. Okay, so this touched on the economic indicators there to sort of watch out for and the things to sort of that are relative to your business. This is more large scale now. These are the things that are a little bit sort of higher up. As I spoke about before, energy security, having available and accessible energy resources is crucial to a country's economic development. This is because if a country doesn't have energy security, it can't basically, especially in this digital technological age, it can't run all the computers and servers that are required to push innovation. You can't sort of if it's too expensive for businesses to, run all the fridges and the power, and it makes it very difficult for businesses to sort of stay in business if we keep seeing energy prices go up, because it takes a big chunk out of the business's net profit due to operating expenses increasing. So, when energy prices are low, business operating costs are much lower, which allows more people to have a go in business and run business at a lower cost. And the more people we see enter the market with different businesses, the sort of the better chance we have of innovating and um, improving in different areas in the economy. Next, we've got climate risk. So, global warming, the extinction of species, growing poverty due to water scarcity, flooding nations due to rising sea levels. So, when we talk about global warming and rising sea levels, there's a lot of different. Probably some of you probably saw the documentary. I believe it was on Netflix with Zac Efron and his mate. They went around to all those island-based nations in one of the episodes, and there was a lot of sort of population sort of under threat due to rising sort of sea levels. Their communities were under threat. So that's definitely something that, we've also got the ice in Antarctica breaking off, rising sea levels that takes down, wipes out those particular islands. And then, you've got all the species that live on the islands, like birds and other mammals, and they can become endangered and die as a result of the island essentially going underwater. In another market, it might be extreme heat. India, for example, if we see too much global warming and we see too many 50-degree days, we might see both humans and animals dying as a result of not being able to access clean water to survive. So climate risk is definitely sort of something there. And we can also, from an environmental science perspective, address the fact that when an animal becomes extinct, basically as a sort of a hierarchy, that animal probably eats, what does it use for food? Does it eat another animal? If it eats another animal, then could result in an oversupply of that animal that it used to eat, which could cause a problem elsewhere. And then from there, you can have an oversupply of a particular animal in an ecosystem that isn't favorable to um, society. So once you sort of start, playing with that natural ecosystem, you start to get a few problems there. Um, so that just sort of further results in, or further points out the benefit of long-term or transitioning to renewable energy as quickly as possible, and de-risking, um, you know, the climate change problem that our world is going to have. US and China, uh, basically, just wanted to touch on this next point here on Taiwan. Taiwan's one of the largest semiconductor manufacturing industries in the world. So basically, it produces chips and different sort of software and computer components. So if the China was to take over Taiwan, this would result in inflated prices potentially within that technological or technology sector. So that's another kind of risk at the moment. There's some tension there between those two economies. US has been bringing back a lot of its manufacturing onshore just to sort of de-risk with a lot of this tension that's happening, and that's something to sort of consider as well if you're able to, if that is an option for your business to bring some manufacturing back onshore. Obviously, the operating expenses are going to be higher, but it's as a contingency plan, it may be of interest depending on the size of your business and what you do. Next, I've got cyber attacks. So just addressing here the importance of cybersecurity and data management within a business. This is especially critical at the moment due to the tension between global powerhouses with Russia, China, and the US, all sort of looking to gain a little bit of information on one another. So, ensuring that you have solid antivirus software, ensuring that the business's data is protected, is a number one. If you're, and that once again comes back to the scale of your business, what customer or client data have you got stored, and ensuring that you're putting those measures in place once you've reached a certain scale or size of your business. So next, I'm going to talk about the geopolitics of AI. So businesses are committed to invest in AI in 2024. It's sort of the big sort of selling topic, if you like, at the moment. Sales guys are saying, yeah, it's got AI, it's got AI. Um, if they want to, if you go into furniture shop and they might tell you that the couch has got AI just to make the sale. Everyone's looking for that. Oh, has it got AI? It's going to be automated. But we're still looking at early stages of AI development now. So um, governments are still working out the most effective way to regulate AI at this point and this stage. Uh, Governments haven't sort of come to an agreement on how they're going to manage AI. There's been some conversations, but um, a lot of businesses still haven't got to a point where they're using AI for innovation. As the figure here from Ernst& Young says, only 8% of organizations are currently using AI to drive innovation, whereas another 91% are using it to optimize operations and automate internal processes and through the use of chatbots for services. So next, how to diversify and de-risk. So we're looking at here that this is how can you diversify and de-risk in your business to um, cater for these factors that could potentially harm your business. So you want to increase your supply chain resilience. So um, this is what I would advise here is finding additional suppliers in different markets and establishing relationships. So if you've always traded with China, so you've got a clothing company or activewear company or business, and you've always sourced on Alibaba and through a supplier or manufacturer in China, might be of interest to go and have a look in India or have a look in Philippines or whatever it might be to sort of see and diversify and have a bit of a backup plan in case there is any conflict between or any trade tariffs imposed between us and that particular economy, or in case there is a war with China and the US, have you got a bit of a backup plan there? Um, the next step factor is bring some operations onshore so we can learn a bit from what the US did in their economy, bringing manufacturing based onshore for your business. If you're outsourcing, you can potentially bring those operations back onshore. Maybe you can't have as many people, afford as many workers, but you have less workers and you focus on the data analytics and the automation of processes through an effective CRM system by using tools such as Power Automate, um, and really trying to get an analyst in on a contract to build that up, or get some consultancy advice from Writer Analytical Solutions. So last one is assess the economic indicators in the nation you're looking to trade with. So for this, I can't emphasize this enough, is just looking and having and assessing those economies of the countries that are supplying you with your product. So if it's having a look at the corruption index within that market, having a look at the inflation rate, having a look at the currency, having a look at the import uh, export within that economy, particularly the relationship between Australia and that country. What's it sort of doing? What's it looking like? They're all sort of things to sort of do, just basic, but just really important when you start looking at international business and moving potentially into the e-commerce market. Okay, and this can be applicable to anybody. It can be you could be sitting here right now watching this video. You can have no business and just be looking to start a business. This is just basic international business and trading. When you start a business, I mean, you can pretty much start one in 30 minutes. You could just go and get an ABN, uh, start, get on Alibaba and start sourcing t-shirts from China and do up a website on Wix and or Squarespace, set up an online store, start selling. You might buy the t-shirts, I don't know, 50 for $100 online, um, $2 a t-shirt through Alibaba, get it sourced, shipped over here. I don't know what shipping would be, but say it's $150, $200 for 50 t-shirts. Okay, so it's about $4 a t-shirt it costs you to make. Then you go, okay, I want to sell these t-shirts for $40, and then sort of look at the difference and work that business model. That's you know what I'm saying could be very applicable for that particular business model. Okay, next, competition for commodities. So this is something that's pretty important. So competition for commodities has increased due to the war in the Ukraine and the energy transition. That's like sort of what I was talking about before with the shortage of energy within the European Union as a result of the war. Water stress has increased between countries since before COVID. We sort of saw that a little bit, especially as countries all sort of locked down during that particular phase, and sort of produced a little bit more, produced products a little bit more within their own market. Globalization got shut down temporarily. World food prices are at the highest they've been since the 1970s. So this goes into our agricultural exports and um, food insecurity is this issue. So, you know, basically what this is saying is that food prices are at an all-time high. Food insecurity is on the rise, which will see a lot of struggling economies, especially with big wealth gaps and wealth inequality, and the lower sort of class is struggling to find that food to be able to survive. Um, and that's a real issue again. So, if your business is in the agricultural based industry, then that's something that, you've probably got to be very across, what's happening within your market. Say you grow avocados, for example, and a cyclone comes through and wipes them all out, and there's a limited supply. Demand stays the same, the price increases, and you've got an issue there. So if we're not sort of producing enough to address the food insecurity issues in the world, there'll be a lot of countries that will start to struggle. Um, some article in The Economist recently suggested that, in Asia, they're having trouble with, they were exporting a lot of rice and there wasn't enough rice um, one of the to feed the domestic market. So they were looking into producing more rice in labs and other ways to be able to meet that demand and provide more food back to the economy to ensure that people weren't starving. Price of rare earths increased from 131% over the 5-year period between 2017 and 2022. This is a result of the renewable energy transition. So uh, this is pretty much a lot of these countries are really trying to, develop lithium batteries for electric cars and other forms of energy. So rare earths have the demand for it has really increased. Supply is increasing, but not at the same rate as demand throughout that period. But we've started to see some markets now, such as Indonesia, really start to ramp up the production of nickel. China is currently the world's leader and refiner in the critical mineral space. So they have a fair bit of control there over critical minerals and the commodity prices within that renewable energy transition. So that could potentially, with the conflict, could potentially affect the renewable energy transition. Um, Next, we've got other mineral rich countries. So, yeah, so that was basically what I was talking about with Indonesia. They have just completely exploded in the nickel market over the past few years. BHP recently shut down operations of a big nickel mine in WA as a result of Indonesia just flooding the market with nickel supply, and this was not a profitable measure for BHP at this point to compete. So, domestically in Australia at the moment, we're definitely not dominating in the nickel at all whatsoever. Um, and Indonesia to compete with Indonesia, they have very low cost labour over there relative to Australia. So the nickel mine is a lot more profitable. And then in addition to that, there's also been a lot of talk about the health and safety standards not being anywhere near what they are here in Australia within those operations. So, last one, countries such as Mexico and India will investigate imposing export taxes and bans on agricultural commodities to safeguard domestic supply. So, with that one there, um, they're just trying to basically restrict. Um, other nations from, taking all their domestic supply of agricultural products. So that'll be to do with food scarcity again. They're really trying to look after that domestic supply to feed their citizens. And that will conclude my talk from today, guys. So uh, if you've got any comments at all or any questions, feel free to post in the comments down below. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.